my dears, and welcome to another tier ranking video. I'm so glad to have you. This one will be as chaotic as the last one, but it will be half the length. So, I'm gonna introduce myself, and that's what we're gonna do. I need scripts. This is why I script my videos, because this happens when I don't have a script. Hi, my name is Sydney. My pronouns are they, them. I am an openly queer, autistic, disabled, trans, non-binary actor, composer, educator, disability advocate, media analyst, all those things. I, every 2 times a week, release short-form content that reviews media representation that's either autism, disability, or memory loss. So the memory loss series has slightly disappeared. It is coming, there will be one in December. But yeah, I do that. It's really great. And when I hit 100 for autism representation, I did a full tier ranking video, and it was really fun, and y'all seemed to like it. I enjoyed it. And 100 was too many in one go. So we're doing it every 50. And so I just hit 50 for my disability, my disability category. And so we're gonna do that today. Again, I have my notes, and we're gonna tier rank some stuff. Also, I'm a white person with light brown hair that you can't really see because it's in a braid, and a maroon tank top and denim overalls on. And I'm sitting in front of a blank wall because we're going to try to do the DIY green screen situation that we did last time. That was sort of effective. It was effective enough for me to not want to go out and purchase a green screen. And also I learned some things about the platform of tier ranking since I made the last video. So this one will be more organized and less disgusting looking at the end. I promise. Yeah, so we're going to go over the categories, and then we'll, you know, we will... All right, brain, we're doing words. Okay, whatever. So the categories that we have. The top one is the red category, and it is Go Now. This is something that was perfect. It stuck in my brain. I think about it on the regular. I need to go back and rewatch it immediately. It's important, and go watch it, I implore you, or read it, or whatever, etc. The next one below that is No Notes. This is something that was perfect, or really, really, really good, but not like, it doesn't stick in my brain 100%. Like, it does stick in my brain, but not in like the, if I were to give you advice on like 3 things to watch leaving this video, it would not be in that top 3. It would be like, yeah, it's fine. Go check it out. It's good. Like, but this one's better, you know? Below that we have No Notes Kids Edition. That is a separate category because kids representation is by default almost a whole lot better than adult representation is. And I have ideas as to why that is, but whatever. Then we have Buttered Noodles below that. It's Buttered Noodles, you know, they're a safe food, they're a comfort food, but they don't have a lot of protein. They're not super good for you. You can't really live off of them. You could add a little something to them. You could make them a little bit better. You could, you know, it's fine. It's a good time, but is it really something that we love? Yeah, not really. Things with historical importance usually also end up in that category. Below that we have, and that category was titled that way because that's what I say when people ask me how I feel about atypical as an autistic person. And yeah, I think that one is pretty self-explanatory. And then below that we have borderline hate crime. These are things that, yeah, that one should also be pretty self-explanatory. So there you go. Those are our categories. We're gonna tier rank it, and it's gonna go great. So first we have Special. This is on Netflix. It's going into the No Notes category. It wasn't my favorite. Like, it's enjoyable. It's a good time. I'm realizing right now that I should have chosen the square option instead of the portrait option, because when they all get filled, I'm not going to be able to see the bottom. It's fine. Anyway, Special is really great. I don't really remember it, which feels important to me. I don't know. I should go back and watch it because it's been a couple of years. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I love how it talked about like coming out as disabled at work, like the problems of that, and it also, like, there's a lot of like disabled sexuality in there, and I really love that as well. So yeah, No Notes, really, it's great. Oh no, it uploaded out of order. Next we have Crip Camp. Crip Camp is going into Go Now. This is a documentary, in case you haven't seen it. If you have not seen this, go see it immediately. It's on Netflix. And it is a documentary about a camp for disabled folks in the 60s, 70s, and like how that group of people, what they learned at camp and that self-advocacy and all of that like environment for them made them grow up to be the people who are the reason that we have like Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act and the ADA, like all of our rights for disabled folks in this country because of them and their community. And it tells the story of like the disability rights movement. It's so incredible. It's so wonderful. Also, Judy Heumann holds a very large part of my heart, and she's obviously very much in this film. So yeah, go watch it. It's a really important foundational disability knowledge piece, and it's great. Next we have Wonder. Oh gosh. I'm putting it in borderline and hate crime. Let's talk about it. This is important. I'm also going to zoom out a little bit because I think we're going to need that. I don't even know where to start with Wonder. Let's start with the fact that he gets an award for existing. He's brave, and so they give him an award because he's brave for being himself. Let's also talk about the fact that they cast a non-disabled kid in the role, no hate to the child, he's a child, to play this role, and he spent hours and hours every day getting prosthetics done when there are actual children who are actors with Treacher Collins who could have done this. Or like other facial differences as well. Like I just don't, why, and then it's just, if you want to explain the concept of inspiration porn, Wonder is what I would use for it. And I loved it when I was a little kid. I loved that book. It was incredible. I saw the movie in theaters. I cried. I loved it. It was great. And then I reread it recently and I rewatched everything recently and I was like disgusted. I realized how much of my internalized ableism and internal self-hatred around my disabilities came from the positive aspects of that film and that just intellectual property in general. And yeah, ew, gross, borderline hate crime. Next, we have Speechless. Speechless is on ABC Family, I want to say. It's going into No Notes. I love this show. It is so fun and funny, and I'm forgetting all of the characters' names right now. JJ is the disabled character's name. He has so much like autonomy and he's just a spicy fun kid and I love him so much, and just the dynamics between everybody are so fun and the whole thing is just so chaotic and silly and delightful and I really enjoy it. I will say that in later seasons the brother character that I'm forgetting his name, he's really autistic coded and it like becomes the butt of the joke in later seasons. Like they kind of like ran out of jokes to make and then they started using him and I was like, oh, maybe let's not do that. Like I was really annoyed by him in later seasons and annoyed by how everybody else treated him, which I did not love, which is why it's not going into Go now because I'm frustrated by that. But the early seasons, the early like, oh my gosh, I really, really enjoy this show. It's very silly, it's very fun, very chaotic, and you should definitely check it out. Next we have Deaf U. I don't understand why all of these things uploaded out of order. I put them in order and I worked so hard on this and it's fine. This is going to Go now as well. This, I believe it's either created or produced by Niall DeMarco, Icon. And it's like, it follows a bunch of students at Gallaudet. And like, it talks about the deaf community. And what I love about it is that it's not afraid to talk about how the deaf community can be really, really toxic. And how like, being in such a small insular community where everybody knows everybody can create a lot of, you know, rough situations, but also like it really walks the line between, yes, difference, these people are different and that is a good thing, and also these people are just like you and that's also fine. And it like, that's a really hard line to walk with representation, and I think they did a really, really wonderful job of handling that. I seem to remember in my review talking a little bit about how like the sound design was wonderful, but they put music over all of the like dialogue that was happening in sign language, and I really would have loved if they had not done that because I think it's so important for hearing people to get comfortable with silence, with what different kinds of communication sound like, because hearing people get so uncomfortable in primarily like signed conversations and they get really weird about it, and I just wish that they'd like leaned into that a little bit more, but that's just a me thing. So yeah, but it's a really good show and you should definitely go look at it. Go watch it. Don't just look at it. And consume it. Next we have Isaac from Sex Education. No notes. It's going into No Notes. Once I find it. Where is it? There it is. Going into No Notes, I I love Sex Education. As I said with my autism tier ranking, I believe I've heard that they did some rough stuff with representation in the last season. I've not seen it. I'm going solely on season 2, which is I think the only time that we see Isaac. I don't think he's in season 1 if I remember correctly. But he's wonderful and like just a spicy, spunky guy, and is just like a full human being. He like has a personality and is not one-dimensional, and I really appreciate him for that. And I also seem to remember that there's a deaf character in season 3, I've heard. I need to go back and review this, is what I'm saying. I need to go back and rewatch this and review it. But yeah, really good. I really enjoy this show a lot. It means a lot to me, and I think it's a really important show. So yeah, no notes. Everything is really positive right now, and you're probably thinking, what are we going to do about the other categories? Don't worry, things are going downhill from here. Okay, next we have Finding Dory. Finding Dory is going straight into borderline hate crime, and my reasoning for that is that most of the animals have disabilities, particularly because it's a conservation situation, right? So they have animals they find in the wild who are injured, who are endangered, whatever. They bring them into this aquarium conservation place where they take care of them and whatever, and like that's fine, we do this for animals all the time, whatever. But it like the undertones of institutionalization that come from them like personifying all of these characters are really interesting. And then at the end, like, well, first of all, with undertones of institutionalization, there's a lot of like, oh, they're not safe to be out in the wild. We can't let them out. They have to be in here. It's the only place that they're safe, whatever, which like I get is somewhat factual. But again, when you're personifying fish, it gets really wonky. And then at the end, they all like, a bunch of the disabled characters just believe hard enough that they can do it, and then their disabilities go away. And I'm like, who okayed this? It was just so questionable, and I just, we need to have disabled writers in the writing room, because that was just so questionable. And do I enjoy this film? Yes. Will I watch it probably the next week? Because now that I'm thinking about it, I miss it. Absolutely. But it is such a train wreck for representation, and I honestly love it for that, but it is still a problem. Next we have White Bird. This is by the same author as Wonder. It is also going into hate crime. Where do I even start? This is the only thing that I have ever reviewed that has gotten 2 reviews. It got a part 1 and a part 2 because I was that angry about it. There's a disabled... It equates disability, the oppression of disability under Nazi rule with the oppression of Jewish people under Nazi rule. And yes, both were in danger during this time period. But you can't equate one oppression with another oppression. Like, yes, they were both struggling and whatever, but you just know, like, they're very different things. And then also, like, when the disabled... I'm gonna totally spoil it. When the disabled character dies, his, like, crutches fly away and he, like, runs into heaven. And I was like, what is going on? And there were so many questionable choices that were made in this book. And it's a graphic novel, too, which makes it, like, even worse to look at. And I don't know what happened here. I mean, I do know what happened here because I know what happened with Wonder as well. But I need this to stop happening. I need stories like that to stop happening. And I know the White Bird is very commonly used as an educational tool, and I very much encourage that should not be happening because it is such a gross, disgusting narrative. And there was a lot of like pity and it was gross. It was icky. And also, okay, the other thing is that there was a film. They had trailers in theaters like 2 years ago. Then they forgot about the film. It disappeared. Their Instagram didn't post anything. Poof, gone, no film. And then apparently the film is out now, suddenly, and they just forgot to advertise it because I've been following them on Instagram this whole time. I had no idea. I forgot about it till I Googled it for this. It's apparently out and it's on Prime, so I need to watch it and review it. I'll probably put it into my January or February reviews. But yeah, there is a movie, so we kept this going. Yeah. It's bad. I think you should watch my review for this one specifically because there's a lot to learn from it. Also, I haven't said this yet, but all of my reviews I will link below. I also have all of them written out, so if watching them is not accessible for you, they are typed out. So they'll both be linked below and you can check them out. You should do that. Learning things is great. Okay. How has it already been 17 minutes and I am on number 9 of 50? Okay, the next one is Signs of Survival. This one is going into No Notes Kids edition. I've heard that it is going to become a limited series with Marlee Matlin. I hope that follows through. I heard about it like a year ago. I hope that continues to happen. I want to see it. It's a story of two sisters, one of whom is deaf, one of whom is hearing, during the Holocaust, and it's a true story. It's a memoir. And it's really good. I really enjoyed it. Next we have Glee, borderline hate crime. We have non-disabled person using a wheelchair. We have that one scene where the non-disabled person in the wheelchair, they all like jump into the pool in succession and then he just wheels into the pool. Glee was a show. Okay, Glee was a show and it did change things for representation, but did it do that in a good way? Who knows, man? It was a show that existed, and that's all I can say about that. Next, we have How to Train Your Dragon. I would put this in No Notes Kids edition, but it's going straight into Go Now because this is one of my favorite intellectual properties. They did disability the same way that pirates do disability, the same way that Vikings did disability. They are Vikings. They did disability the way that they do disability, which is also very similar to how pirates do disability, in which, like, you know, jobs are hard, people get injured a lot in the workforce that they work in, and everybody just like accommodates it, rolls with it, continues on, and nobody really cares, and it's just like, it's part of their character, it is part of who they are as people, it impacts how they interact with the world, but it's not like, oh my gosh, they're disabled, or oh, they have a prosthetic. It's just like, oh cool, I like your prosthetic, man, and then it just like rolls on, and I love and appreciate it, and it's beautiful, and also Toothless and I need to be friends. I know that he's a fictional character, so that sentence made no sense. But I love him. He's so good. He's just a little guy. I love him so much. Okay, next one is Thank You, Mr. Fokker. This is going to No Notes Kids edition. If you are not reading Patricia Polacco's children's books, you need to get on that because her books are incredible. Thank You, Mr. Fokker is about growing up having a hard time reading. I think it's specifically dyslexia, if I remember correctly. And how everybody just like teased her and called her stupid and whatever, and she had one teacher who believed in her and helped her to figure out how to make reading accessible to her and how important like those teachers are, and it is just such an important book, and the illustrations are gorgeous, and it's just incredible. I cannot recommend it enough. So after that really positive one, we're going straight to Gigi and Nate. Gigi and Nate is about a man who becomes paralyzed and then gets a service monkey. And service monkeys are not a thing anymore. I made a separate reel about the history of service monkeys because it was so wild that I needed to share it with the world. But yeah, it's such a oh woe is me, everything is terrible film, and then there's also the service monkey aspect, which is a whole other situation that should have been tackled better. It would have been better if it were a service dog, but it was still like, oh my gosh, my service animal saved my life, which like, yes, they do that, but the idea of having a service animal save your life is semi-problematic because you need to be able to at least handle some semblance of things by yourself because you have to care for the service animal and it has to care for you, and it's a partnership. It's not a like full care situation. It's a lot more complicated than this. Film was just a problem. It was bad. Also, it's a non-disabled person playing the paralyzed character, and the film feels like something that was released in 2002 and it came out like last year. And I don't know why. I don't know who let this happen. But it's a fun one to yell at if you're feeling angry. Okay, next is Soul Surfer. I'm putting this into Buttered Noodles. I would put into No Notes because it handles the disability really well, if I'm going to be honest. It feels a little too polished, if that makes sense. And also Bethany Hamilton, who is the actual Soul Surfer, is a transphobe. You don't get to go into No Notes for being a transphobe. Okay, next is The Theory of Everything. This is going into it's gonna go into Umwell. You know what? It's gonna go into Umwell, because I like the film. I do like the film. It is problematic. It is an issue. Eddie Redmayne acted his butt off. However, is he a non-disabled person playing a disabled character? Absolutely he is. Did he, I believe, win the Oscar for Best Actor for it? I think so. Please stop doing that. But yeah, it was very inspiration porny. It was very caregivery. It didn't feel like it was from his perspective at all, and it didn't feel good. I like the film because it was my very first PG-13 film that I saw right after my 13th birthday, and I was very excited about it. It was a big deal. We went to see it in theaters, but I don't actually like the film. You know, I have nostalgia for it, but it's not great. Okay, the next one is Dr. Miranda from Star Trek. I'm gonna put this into Unwell. This is from the original series, by the way. I know that there is a distinction between the Star Trek and the other Star Trek. And then the other Star Trek? There's a lot of Star Treks, right? That's a thing? I know, I'm a bad autistic person for not knowing a lot about Star Trek. But if that tells you anything about how not all autistic people are the same, you're welcome. She's like blind, but then it's not brought up that she's blind until the very end of the episode, and then she is blind, but also she has super perception skills and is in fact super crip. So super crip is a trope where a person has a disability, but then one of their other abilities is absolutely like too magical levels of good to like make up for the other disability. We see a lot of this with superheroes, which I have not tapped into the Marvel universe yet in this series, but I need to. I'm going to do that. That is a plan. It happens a lot, right? Like we have like this character is deaf, but they have super sight, and so it's okay that they're deaf, like makes up for it. She was that. She was like, I'm blind, but I know that you're standing like 0.3 feet away from me, and blah, 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 and I can sense this and sense this and sense this. And I was like, okay, Spider-Man, what's going on here? So I didn't love it. It was my favorite. But also like disability representation from the 70s, 80s, whatever it was. I have to give it a little bit of a pass, so it's fine. Whatever. They can do whatever they want. Next, we have the Peanut Butter Falcon. I'm putting this into buttered noodles. I was surprised by this movie. It worked. It worked. Some of the, if I remember correctly, there were some semblance of race issues in the film, but it was way less terrible than I thought it was going to be. The way that the film was described, when you like look it up, it sounds like it's going to be super inspiration porny, going to be super patronizing and super weird. But it's not. It's like genuinely a fun film that you never know what's going to happen. It goes into so many directions. But also Shia LaBeouf is the lead guy in Shia LaBeouf. So that knocks it down a bit. So we're buttered noodles. That's where we're going. Next, we have Theo from Only Murders in the Building. He's deaf. He's great. I love him. Going into no notes. That's all I have to say about that. I've seen season 2. I need to watch season 3. I'm saying this out loud so that I remember to do it, and I still won't remember to do it, but I'm gonna think about doing it, and that will help. Next, we have Darth Vader. Now, I would put him in borderline hate crime, but I don't want to get hate crime, so it's going into the unwell category. This review got so much backlash. I was like, hi, can we talk about the fact that they made Darth Vader on a ventilator so that the sound of him coming would be different from everybody else, and so that would be frightening, and they deliberately use his disabilities as a way to prove the fact that he became evil and therefore his body became evil as well. And like Star Wars is a serious issue with equating different bodies with evilness. And like, I love Star Wars, but this is a problem. And everybody in my reviews was like, you're a terrible person. How dare you? And I was like, okay, I'm sorry for upsetting the entirety of the Star Wars fandom for just speaking the truth, y'all. Wow. But this is a known phenomenon. It's written about all the time by scholars. It's an issue, and I don't appreciate it. But it's not going to borderline hate crime because I don't want to get murdered for saying that Darth Vader is problematic, because apparently Star Wars fans want that for me. I'm confused. I think by me saying, wow, Star Wars is ableist, and you being like, hey, you disabled person, I want to come after you to fight you, it just feels like maybe you're proving your own. Anyway, okay, moving on. We're moving on. This is great. Moving on. Nemo. Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo's going to No Notes Kids Edition. I like his little Lucky Finn. He's just a little guy. He's really fun. Would you like to know a fun fact about Finding Nemo? It came out a few years after I was born, and it takes place in Sydney, Australia, as we know, right? I did not know that Sydney, Australia was a real place, and my older sibling managed to convince me that they made the film in honor of me, and that it took place in Sydney to honor me. And I believed that until I was like 6 years old. And then I told everybody at kindergarten, and they didn't believe me, and I was confused. Anyway, it's not about me. The film is not about me. It was never about me. if you want to make it about me, you can, but you know. Anyway, I really like Finding Nemo. It's really good. Also, the soundtrack is incredible. Okay, The Fault in Our Stars. Going into Buttered Noodles. I think I'm not going to talk about the whole, like, everybody who likes John Green thinks that they're a literature buff situation, because I disagree with that, and I think it's kind of a problematic notion of, like, this is more in-depth than most literature that kids that age are reading, or, like, teenagers are reading, and the fact that they felt smart, like, whatever. People are going to be pretentious. That happens. My critiques of this story is that it is a little inspiration porny, and it is a little bit like, why were they just like, there's so much privilege in these characters, and that they just, like, go off and they travel, and they just, like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm explaining myself properly right now. My review, I was very careful with my wording. You know what? No, I'm not going to pull it up. I was going to pull it up and read it for you, but you can just watch it. But it's just not, it's fine. It was kind of the first of its, the other thing is that people are like, oh, it's cliche. It kind of wasn't cliche when it came out. It was really successful and people really loved it. And so there were a lot of, like, rip-offs and like Walmart versions of this film that were made, and so it became really cliche, but it was not necessarily cliche when it was created. I think people forget that a lot, but it's fine. It could have done more. It could have done better. Those are my thoughts on that. Next we have Tone Deaf. Tone Deaf is going straight into Go Now. Look, if you want a cheesy beach read, cheesy rom-com, maybe less calm, a cheesy romance beach read that has lots of discussions of abuse, but a really, really good book. Main character is deaf and was formerly a music prodigy who then lost her hearing, which, like, for me, as somebody who was formerly doing a lot of music and then got really sick, like, and I first read this around that time, it meant a lot to me, and I felt like I was seen by this book, and it's very cheesy. It's like a Wattpad romance with, like, a little, it's a step up from a Wattpad romance. From Wattpad, why am I pronouncing it that way? It's a step up from a Wattpad romance. It's not perfection, but it is perfection, and I love it. Also, there's queer couple. There's so much going on. I cannot recommend it enough. It's one of my favorite books, and I reread it regularly because sometimes we just need a little disabled, cheesy romance moments in our life. You know, we all deserve to have that. Also, in case you can't tell, I consume a lot of really terrible and depressing media representation, so when I get a fun, funky romance, my favorite. I love when this happens. It's so good. Okay. Next we have Switched at Birth. I'm putting this into Buttered Noodles because the show itself is a train wreck. The representation is spectacular. The show is, I've watched every single season of it, and I can confidently tell you that much like Glee, it's a mess. Is that the genre? Absolutely. I do think it's really cool that, like, the Switched at Birth concept itself is already enough to make a really good show that would have made them a lot of money, and they still decided, you know what, let's do Switched at Birth and add in disability with that, and I thought that was so cool, and maybe my standards are low, but I appreciated that that was a choice that was made, because it's, yeah. So it's fine. Next we have Junkyard Wonders. This is another Patricia Polacco book. It is going into No Notes Kids Edition. This one is about being in a special ed classroom with all kinds of different disabilities, and again, just incredible, 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 incredible. I want to be friends with Patricia Polacco. She's so cool. Her stuff is so cool. It meant so much to me as a kid before I was like, even before I knew I was disabled, these books held a huge place in my heart, and now that I'm, like, yeah, please, if you're gonna buy any books for a classroom, like, those are my default. Always to have those, because they're just so incredible and so good and important, and I love them, and they're beautiful. Okay, next we have The Miracle Worker. I was gonna put this in Borderline Hate Crime, but I almost want to put it in Unwell. I'm gonna put it in Borderline Hate Crime. A lot of the tropes that we have around blind folks came from this film. So this film is the story of Helen Keller, based on the play based on Helen Keller's personal memoir. Now, Helen Keller, I have been meaning to make a video on this, actually. Helen Keller was a eugenicist. She believed that disabled people should be prevented. She believed that people, like, she was like, I am the exception. And she was a problematic lady. So a lot of this, while it is her own lived experience as she explains it, is not maybe something that we want to be encouraging, we want to be talking about, we want to say, yeah, this is great. I love that your teacher regularly threw you, like literally picked you up and tossed you places. I love that you were being abused into submission and that therefore was a good fit. Like, it just, I don't understand why this is supposed to be heartwarming, because it's just not. It's very disturbing to watch, and I guess it was an important part in history of seeing like, oh, deafblind folks are people, but also she's being treated like an animal, so I don't think it helped in that case historically. It was just a really, really hard movie to get through. It messed me up for a few days, and I get that it has historical merit, but like, good heck, please don't watch it. Next we have Me Before You, also borderline hate crime. The message of that film is that actually when you're disabled, everything is so bad that assisted suicide is the only option. I love it. I love that we have that in a movie. I think that's so good and such a message that we want to be portraying. Yeah. We have video of me watching this film in real time. I'm gonna actually splice it in here. It's in my Curious Incident documentary, but I'm gonna splice it in here so that you can witness it, cause it's an experience.
Sydney, what are we doing?
Watching a bad movie?
And what are we doing while we're doing
that? For the record, we're watching Me Before You and it's bad. I am addressing 43 letters. And I'm learning to dot my I's with circles because it tells me to do that in the script.
Because the script is
The script is one of the most hyper-specific scripts I've ever looked at, and it's, as somebody tried to find props, infuriating. What sort of disability representation? Oh, also for an update of the letters, I have written all of the addresses on all 43. We have both, and I'm putting stamps on them, and then we're gonna stamp on top of the stamps that they've been sent. We're doing a good job with props. What kind of movie was that? It's so bad. That was, stay tuned for my review in April, guys. Because yeah, this movie drove me up the wall. If you want to watch my review of it, you definitely should, because I have significant notes as to why it's just a mess. Next we have the Seinfeld Bubble Boy episode. I know there's another Seinfeld episode that has disability in it that I have not reviewed yet. I'm aware of that. I forget which one it is. I have it written down somewhere. I don't like Seinfeld. Wait, where am I putting it? I'm putting it into well. I don't like Seinfeld. I don't find it funny. That's not my kind of humor. All of these people suck. I made my review about how I was like, all these people suck. And then all the comments were like, oh, no, that's the point of Seinfeld. It's supposed to be funny that these people suck. And I was like, why is that funny? I don't find that funny. So maybe I'm broken. I don't know. But yeah, it's the thing about Bubble Boy is that he would, I think his name was David Vedder. He was a real person. And there was a lot of pain and trauma in his family and in other families affected by SCID, and seeing these constant like pop culture references to it are really painful for them. Because yes, the sacrifice is not the right word because he didn't really have a choice, but you know, David's experience led to a lot of research and knowledge about SCID that has helped us to be able to make it a lot better today and a lot more easily, quickly diagnosable and treatable. But it still, like, it's just not something that we should just be joking about regularly, because there's a lot of pain going on around that. And all of the reviews of other people that I read about this were talking about how it is really, really painful for them to see this. And it was just like, it didn't need to be there. It was a cheap gag. It was a stupid gag. It was unnecessary and it caused a lot of pain for people. And like, yay, it brought more awareness to the concept of a bubble boy, but like, does that really help anything? Not really, you know? Next we have Crutchy from Newsies. He's perfect. I love him. I'm putting him straight into no notes. Also, speaking of Andrew Keenan Bolger, I saw Dracula off Broadway the other day. He plays Harker? That's his name. He plays Harker. He did a great job. I enjoyed it. Crutchy's great. I love him. I think that he's handled really, really well. And handled well within the historical context that it is in. Like, it doesn't feel out of place. It feels very in place. There is one moment where there's a couple of things that are like slightly red flags that I am fine with. I think having the villain use the elongated version of Crip as a slur is kind of cool. I kind of enjoyed that, honestly, that I was like, wow, he sucks. I did not like that they were using it within their friend group. Like, I get it, because that happened to the disabled community as well, but like from people watching it, how are they going to perceive it, right? And there's also the element of like, you know, Crutchy's dream is to be able to like go run and like whatever, but there was an idea back then that you know, clearer air would actually cure you of things. So like, I get it. It's complicated. I talked about this in my review, but yeah. Either way, I really love it, and I love Newsies, and it holds a very, very important piece of my heart. Again, if you watch the Curious Incident documentary, you'll know why. But it's, yeah, No Notes, gorgeous. I love it. I need to rewatch that soon also. Okay, next one we have South Park. I am shocked to say this, but it is going into No Notes. Is it gonna, we're gonna put it into Butter Noodles. We're gonna put it into No Notes. The Tourette's episode was handled really well. I was shocked. They handled it really well. And then their Asperger's episode was a disaster, so that was just a hate crime. But their Tourette's episode was pretty good, and I was really surprised at the Tourette's community. I don't have Tourette's, I have a different tic disorder, but the Tourette's community seems to really agree. So cheers to them for that. I wish they had done that research on other stuff that they covered, but you know what? It's fine. I don't like South Park. I don't find it funny, but this episode was fine. Like they did a good job if that's your kind of humor. Next we have My Left Foot. Oh. This is going into Unwell. Oh, whoa. It's going into Unwell. First of all, Crip Face, right? It's Daniel Day-Lewis playing a character with cerebral palsy, which, did you know that actors with CP exist? I know several of them. They're all great, and you should have cast them instead. The other thing is, this is a really good example of, cool story, bro. Why is it a film? In that it's a cool story, but it contains a lot of internalized ableism, a lot of shame towards his own disability, a lot of negative stuff that is real and authentic for people who live with those experiences, but with such a limited disability media canon, do we really need to be putting that in there where that's all we get? Like uncritically, and I think that it was created uncritically, and it also hammers home the idea of the tortured artist trope. Oh my gosh, tortured artists up the wazoo, which is one of my least favorite tropes, because fun fact, artists create art regardless of their traumatic experiences, regardless of their life. They make art. So you don't need to be traumatized to make good art, because you're gonna make art either way, and we should be taking care of people and not glorifying trauma in artists, because that bleeds into our education system where we actively traumatize people and think it's okay because we're making them better artists. So that also grinds my gears. But yeah, I didn't enjoy it. Also, the main character sucked. He was just not a nice guy. Like, I didn't like him. He was kind of the worst. So bad. I didn't like it. Next we have The Upside. This is a remake of a French film with Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart and Nicole Kidman too, I believe. I've seen this movie 5 different times. It has been this different title and a different cast, but I've seen it so many times. It is no different from anything. It's just bland. It's boring. It's not exciting. This one specifically had like no feelings in it. It was very bland and hard to get through, man. It wasn't a hate crime because it wasn't the worst, but I didn't love it. It was boring. I've seen it. The next one we have Amaya from The Dragon Prince. That's going straight up into Go Now. She is deaf, and therefore she pays more attention to like different things around her, not in a super Crip way, but in a genuine, realistic way. And they were so careful with the animation to like include how sightlines are different for deaf folks in how they communicate, and they animated her signing correctly, and also she gets a wife later, and it's just so good, and I want to be her friend. It was incredible. It was so well done, and just so good. And I loved it, and she was so cool, and I want to be her friend. I know she's not real, but I want to be her. We should be friends. Amaya and I should be friends because she's so cool, and she's a sword fighter, and she's really great. Okay, next we have, we're almost done, sort of. Next we have Champions. Champions is a Woody Harrelson film that came out very recently. It's going into no notes. Whoa, I just wanted to go now. It's going into no notes, and I am shocked by this as much as you guys are. It is about a guy who did something bad, and I don't remember what it was. He was like trying to become a basketball coach, and he was like working on a basketball, like as an assistant to the assistant coach. He did something bad. He got court ordered to coach basketball for a Special Olympics team. And I was like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be bad. It was great. They handled it so well. Everybody was authentically cast. And I've heard it is also based on a French film. If I'm not 100% on that. I think it is based on something else that was famous before this remake was made. But it's really good. It's really genuinely a good film, and I will be watching it again. They handled it really well. Yeah, highly recommend. And it was funny, but not in like a haha disabled people are funny kind of way, but in just like the reality of disability can often be very funny kind of way, which I really loved and appreciated and thought was so good and important. And yes. Next we have The Chance to Fly. This is by Ali Stroker and a co-writer who I'm blanking on the name of right now. It's going to No Notes Kids Edition. It's about a girl who is a wheelchair user who does a like summer camp theater show, and like disability, getting involved in that, and accessibility and all that kind of stuff. It handled race a little weirdly, I'm not gonna lie. It handled internalized ableism a little weirdly, I'm not gonna lie, but otherwise I really, really enjoyed it. And I think it's a good like starter thing, and I've never really seen people talk about disability in theater in representation before, so that was a really big deal for me. So yeah, I'm putting it to No Notes Kids Edition because I really enjoyed it. There's also a sequel. I need to track that down. There is a sequel. I need to read the other one. After this we have The Strike. Oh, I forgot to mention. So the numbering of my disability series is a disaster. I like skipped a number somewhere, and then I repeated another number somewhere else, and everything's confusing, and I don't know what happened. And then we had The Strike, and so then things got weird because I could only review books. So I had some books done and some movies done. So then I took out the movies, and those are coming in January. But then I lost one. One of them is gone, and so I need to make a new review for like 39 or whatever it is. So anyway, the numbers are wonky as heck, but whatever. So we have The Strike here, so a couple are cut. Next is Wonderstruck, which is the book Wonderstruck, not the film. I also have a review of the film that is coming soon. Wonderstruck film, where am I putting it? I'm putting it to Go Now. I mean, Wonderstruck book. Wonderstruck book is going into Go Now. I love this. I love Brian Selznick specifically. He is incredible. He's an incredible artist, an incredible writer. He like plays between using text and using illustration so beautifully, and his books just like move, and they always tell like two different stories at the same time, and then they interact at the end. And this had deafness in it, handled beautifully. As a non-disabled person, handling it this well was astonishing to me. And also, like, if he can do it, everybody else can. There's no excuse, right? It's just it's so good, and it's so wonderful. And also, like, the main hub of the whole story is the American Museum of Natural History, which I went to in like my second week after I moved here, and I saw the wolves exhibit and I cried because I was like, oh my gosh, like this book was the beginning of my special interest in deaf studies and deaf culture, which then led me to the disabled community, and like I didn't realize this until I reread it like last year, but it was the core of how I, became who I am today. And just seeing some of that in real life, and it was just wonderful. Yeah, really recommend this book. I recommend everything by him. He's an incredible author. He's also working on a Gatsby adaptation that's going to be animated, so I have heard. So I'm excited about that. I'm looking forward to that. I want to see his animation era. We need more Brian Selznick in the world is what I'm trying to say. Next we have From Sand and Ash. This was a book that I read that was a Holocaust book about World War II Italy. I'm putting it into the unwell category. It was fine. It was there was some problematic stuff going on, and I think that you can get the same story told in other less problematic ways. So it was just the way that it dealt with religious oppression and like a romance between a pastor and a Christian pastor and a Jewish woman, I think was weird, and there was like some slight incest. Yeah, just anyway, moving on from that book. Next we're gonna talk about El Defo. El Defo's Going to No Notes Kids Edition. This book is a graphic novel about a girl growing up deaf. I've heard that there is a show or a TV or a movie or something, and I need to track that down. But I reviewed this during the strike, so I didn't look it up. Incredible. I know this book has meant so much to a lot of people. It has meant a lot to me. I've also met the author, and she's an absolute delight. And yeah, it's just really good. I highly recommend checking it out. I love it so much. It's so wonderful. Next, we have Studying Disability Arts and Culture by Petra Kuppers. This is a straight up textbook, but it's going into Go Now. It's a textbook. I say it's a textbook in that it's actually pretty accessible to read. It took me maybe 3 hours to read the whole book. It's really, really good. I highly recommend it. It is a really good primer for the disability community, for disability rights, for how to be inclusive of disabled folks in your spaces. And so I highly recommend checking it out. That's why it's going there. Yeah, I don't think that needs more explanation. Next we have Because of Mr. Terept. This is going to go into Buttered Noodles. They used the R slur a little bit too much in this book. I understand why they used it where they did, but I don't think that it was necessary. There were a couple other things that were outdated or inaccurate in this story. I love how it talked about issues. I love how it talked about issues within classrooms specifically. As a former teacher, I really appreciate the discussions of like why trauma-informed classrooms are important, without saying that literally, but it gave that example and it used that. So it's an incredible book, but the disability rep is not perfect. Next we have Disfigured on Fairy Tales, Disability Making Space. I'm putting this into no notes. This book was not sure if it was a textbook or a memoir, and frankly that's okay, but it was a little all over the place. I think it is a very good primer for how media, specifically media that we view when we are children, impacts how we view ourselves as minority people, and was a very important text for me to like understand media representation. It's not my favorite. It's good, but it's not my favorite. It felt like a lot of the discussions were like started but then not finished, and I wish that it had been a little bit more organized and cohesive and that kind of stuff, if that makes sense. It's good. It's great. I enjoyed it. Go read it, but it's not like my favorite thing ever. I probably will not read it again. Next we have All the Light We Cannot See. I'm putting this into Buttered Noodles because I didn't like the book. The disability representation is fine. I think it was very surface level and it could have gone a lot deeper. Yeah, it's just not here. I know that this is a show now. I need to watch the show and review it. That is also on my list. Next we have Love from A to Z. This is going straight into Go Now. I love this book. This is another cheesy romance. It is a cheesy romance that includes disability, and also includes race and Muslim identity and how that impacts dating and relationships with the added bit of disability. It's so good. It was so mind-blowing. I cried. I go read this book. Like, cheesy romance aside, go read this book. It is so beautiful and helped me unpack a lot of my own internalized ableism and like a feeling of being a burden on other people, and like, yeah, it's just so good and incredible, and yeah, I don't even have more words for it. It's just great. Next, we're almost done. We got like 6 left. Next, we have Out of My Mind. This is going straight into Unwell. I was going to put it in Hate Crime, but we're going to put it in Unwell. It is a historically important thing. It got a lot of people to realize that you should presume competence. The people who use AAC and communicate in different ways are able to understand what's going on, and we should always presume competence because whatever. But also, the book was so, like, I'm actually really smart, and so therefore I'm better than all the other stupid disabled people who suck. And I was like, whoa, this is a lot. Like, we don't need to do that. Let's not put down intellectual disabilities. That seems like a bad way to, like, no. It was very, very frustrating to read, and the main character just sucked. So, like, it was an important stepping stone, but I think we've grown a lot since then with media, and I think that it's time for that one to sit on the shelf and let's replace it with some other stuff. I also know there's a sequel to that. I'm not reading it. Next we have My Sister's Keeper. I would put this in Go Now because it is sitting with me, but it also ruined my life, so it's going into No Notes. It's incredible. This book is so good. It made me so angry. Oh my gosh. It's so good though. It's so good. I need to watch the movie. I'm gonna review that soonish because I got a lot of requests for it. It's really good. It's really, really good, and it handles the reality of disabled life very well, the reality of chronic illness life very well, almost too well. I felt called out. I felt attacked, you know? It was good. I loved it. Jodi does her research, and I respect it, and I appreciate it, and she's awesome. Next, we have What Happened to You. This is a children's book. It's gonna go into No Notes Kids Edition. It's about a little boy with one leg. It's so sweet. It's so wonderful. I love this so much. Also, the author and I, have spoken, and he's wonderful as well, which is not surprising at all, but yes, I highly recommend this book. It is definitely worth checking out, and yes, it's a really, really good book, and I highly recommend it, definitely. And it's one of those books you can age up or age down depending on how you teach it, which is important. I love books like that. They're really helpful in classroom settings, so 10 out of 10 for that. Next we have Little Women, Beth from Little Women. I'm putting it into Buttered Noodles. It's fine. That discussion was that my camera's about to die. Oh no, I shall return. I like how I said that this video is going to be shorter than my other ranking video, and then it is, I've been filming for longer, so it's not gonna be shorter probably. Whoopsies. Okay, yes, we're talking about Beth from Little Women. She's fine. I elaborate on this in my review. It's kind of problematic, but within the historical context of where it sits, it's actually fine, and I don't mind it, and I think that she's important representation, but she's often portrayed in a way that removes some of her humanity and kind of Hollywoodizes it to make it more dramatic and sad and whatever, and she's just a helpless little girl, and I'm she's not though. She just likes things as they are, and so she doesn't imagine a future for herself because she likes things as they are, and she doesn't want to think about things changing. It's complicated, and yeah, we're gonna move on. Next we have True Biz. True Biz is going into Go Now. I love this book. This book was also incredible, because it is one of those things where the book itself is incredible, and then the fact that there's deaf representation makes it extra incredible, but it wasn't necessary for it to be a good book, which always adds to it. If the disability is what makes it a good book, okay, but it was a good book plus there was disability involved. I find that happens most often with deaf representation, primarily because deaf culture really prioritizes pride, and so the internalized ableism is usually loud. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. But the book is really incredible. It's really, really good. I cannot recommend it enough. Please go read it. There's an arson subplot. It's chaos. It is, you never know what's gonna happen. It is a roll page turner. And you learn a lot about ASL and deaf culture along the way, and the different kinds of people who are within deaf culture. And it's just incredible. Next we have Crip Kinship. Crip Kinship is also going into Go Now. This is more on the textbooky side, but it talks about what advocacy looks like, what activism looks like, and talks about the intersectionality with race and performance and all of this stuff. And it is a lot of disability studies a lot of disability studies works are very white, and this one is very not. And I think that is important and worth centering, and I want to point out. So please go read this book. It's a very accessible read as well. Accessible in the sense of it is a textbook, but it's a little more academic than your average writing, but it is a pretty easy read. I read the whole thing on a flight. Highly recommend it. Definitely worth checking out. It's like a cozy, homey kind of book. Also, it makes you feel very welcome and safe. Last two. Our Flag Means Death is going into Buttered Noodles. They butchered their disability representation in season 2. They made one character suddenly disabled, and then he lost all of his plot and then died. And I was like, what? It felt like he was they turned him into the family dog who then broke his leg, and then they were oh, the poor dog, and then he got put down at the end. That was the energy that it gave, and I was like, what's happening here? And then the other thing is that they made a character with a facial difference avenging their facial difference, because he had his nose cut off, by Spanish Jackie because she cuts off people's noses, and then he was like trying to get revenge on the pirates because so then it was literally the mutilated Avenger trope, like specifically like copy paste, put it into their script with somebody with a facial difference, which is like the only time we see facial differences in media are explicitly for mutilated Avenger tropes and for villains. Like I don't understand why we had to do that. They are so good at handling their representation with non-binary folks, with gay representation, with poly representation, and then I also heard that they bungled the asexual representation. I wasn't paying attention to that, but that doesn't surprise me because what do they do with disability? What happened there? There's other disabilities in the show. There are like the wooden finger and somebody's a speech impediment, and there's something else as well if I remember correctly. And a lot of people wear like knee braces and whatnot, but like I just don't understand how that happened. So it's going to Butter Noodles because I love this show so dearly, and I'm sad. I'm sad that they did that because I think, again, we need to have disabled people in the writing room. This is what happens when you don't have them in the writing room. And then our last one is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He's going into No Notes Kids Edition. This was the most fun I have ever made making a review. And I'm glad the internet saw that. It like went a little viral, which I really appreciated. It's a great allegory. It's a great way to teach people about the social model of disability. It's a frustrating film, but I enjoy it in that there's a lot that can be used from it as a teaching tool. But anyway, that is our tier list. We did it, guys. We made another one, and it was a good time, and it was fun. Yay. I don't think the next one will be around for at least another 3 or 4 months, because I'm nowhere near 150 for autism, and I'm nowhere near 100 for disability, but we'll see. Who knows how that's gonna go. I am living month by month, my guy. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. If you want to make your own tier list of this, I have included that in the link below for you, so you can. You should. Let me know what your list look like. This is my list. Let me know what you think. Again, if you want me to review other things, please do not put it in the comments. Please put it in the Google form that is in the description. I don't see them in the comment. Well, I do see them, but I don't keep track of them, so they will get lost. I will never come back and be like, oh, let me check this. I don't. So put it into the Google form. I have that there for a reason. It's so I can keep track of things because I lose stuff. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. Hope you enjoyed this. If you want to check out last week's video, it was a good one. It was an important one about theater and history and whatnot. I don't know what's coming next week. I haven't decided that yet. But hope you have a great new year. And yeah, I'll see you, my dear, in the next one.